They called it justice. They executed a single human envoy believing Earth would pause, that we'd plead. But Earth doesn't pause, and we never plead. Instead, we sent fleets. We brought fire, and in our silence, empires burned. 8. The betrayal. At Nexus Prime, Captain Alina Vasquez stood at the observation deck of Nexus Prime, watching the stars shimmer through the massive transparent aluminum windows. The space station was a marvel of engineering, built jointly by 12 different species over the course of 50 years. Today, it would host the most important trade negotiations in human history. Alina adjusted her blue diplomatic uniform and checked her chronometer. In 30 minutes, she would represent Earth in front of the Galactic Trade Alliance Council. After 20 years of peaceful cooperation, humanity was finally being considered for full membership. The economic benefits would transform human civilization forever. Dr. Marcus Chen approached from behind, his footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. "Alina, you should see this," he said, his voice tight with concern. Marcus had been her advisor for 5 years, and she had never heard him sound so worried. "What is it, Marcus?" Alina turned to face her friend. The xenobiologist, usually calm. Demeanor was replaced by barely controlled anxiety. Marcus handed her a datapad. "I've been analyzing the biological samples from our outer colonies, the ones where we've been having those mysterious illness outbreaks." His hands trembled slightly. "Lena, these aren't natural diseases. Someone has been testing bioweapons on our people." Lena's blood ran cold as she read the data. The genetic markers were unmistakable. The diseases that had killed thousands of human colonists were artificially created, designed specifically to target human DNA. "Are you certain about this?" "Absolutely certain," Marcus replied. "The molecular structure is too precise to be natural. Someone has been using our colonies as testing grounds for biological weapons." Lina felt her military training kick in. Before becoming a diplomat, she had served as a captain in Earth's Defense Force. She recognized a threat assessment when she saw one. "Do we know who's responsible?" Marcus's expression darkened. "The genetic signature points to Saurian Empire laboratories." "But Alina, this kind of research requires resources and authorization that goes beyond one species. This is a coordinated effort by multiple alliance members." The implications hit Alina like a physical blow. The same species that had welcomed humanity into the galactic community, that had shared technology and established trade routes, had been secretly developing weapons to destroy them. The peaceful coexistence of the past 20 years had been a lie. "We need to confront them," Alina said firmly. "This stops now." The council chamber of Nexus Prime was an impressive sight. Representatives from 12 different species sat in a circular arrangement, each in specially designed seats that accommodated their unique physiologies. Alina had attended dozens of these meetings, always finding hope in the diversity of galactic civilization. Today, that hope was gone. Zektar Voss of the Saurian Empire sat across from her, his reptilian features betraying no emotion. His people were known for their scientific achievements and supposed commitment to galactic peace. To his left sat Millennial Disses, an ancient crystalline being from the Eternal Collective. Her species had existed for millions of years and were considered the wisest in the galaxy. Alina stood and activated the central holographic projector. The evidence Marcus had discovered filled the air above the council table. Molecular structures, DNA sequences, and mortality statistics painted a horrifying picture. "Honored council members," Alina began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I present evidence that multiple Alliance species have been conducting illegal biological weapons testing on human colonies." A murmur of surprise rippled through the chamber, but Alina noticed that some representatives showed no shock at all. They had known. Zektar Voss rose from his seat, his scaled head tilting in what appeared to be confusion. "Captain Vasquez, these are serious accusations. Perhaps there has been some misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding," Alina replied coldly. 17 human colonies have suffered from these designed plagues. Over 50,000 civilians are dead. men, women, and children killed by diseases that your laboratories created. Millennial Tice's crystalline form pulsed with soft light as she spoke. Captain Vasquez, humanity is a young species. Perhaps you do not understand the complexities of galactic biological research. Sometimes unfortunate accidents occur. Elena's military composure cracked slightly. Accidents? These weapons were precisely engineered to target human physiology. The genetic markers proved deliberate design and deployment. The council members exchanged glances that Elena now recognized as coordination rather than surprise.
Ouch.
With growing horror that this had been planned, not just the biological weapons, but this entire confrontation. Councillor Vorth of the Mechanical Syndicate spoke next, his artificial voice carrying an electronic echo. Captain Vasquez, your species has always been ... volatile. Perhaps these illnesses are simply the result of human expansion into unsuitable environments. You're lying, Elena said simply. All of you. You've been testing weapons on my people. While pretending to be our allies, the chamber fell silent. Elena looked around the circle of beings she had once considered friends and saw only cold calculation in their eyes. Zektar Voss stood again, his posture now openly hostile. Captain Vasquez, you are suffering from paranoid delusions. This is clearly a human psychological breakdown. We cannot allow an unstable individual to disrupt galactic peace. Elena realized the trap had been set long before she arrived. They had planned this confrontation, prepared their responses, and decided her fate. You're going to blame this on human mental instability? For the safety of all species, Millennial Dis announced, we must consider Captain Vasquez a contaminated security risk. The human tendency toward violence and paranoia makes her presence dangerous to galactic stability. Elena laughed bitterly. Contaminated. You murder 50,000 of my people and call me contaminated. The vote was swift and unanimous. Elena Vasquez, representative of Earth and champion of human interests, was declared a threat to galactic peace. The sentence was immediate execution to prevent the spread of human psychological contamination to other species. As the security drones moved toward her, Elena activated her personal communicator. She had one final message to send home. Admiral Blake, this is Captain Vasquez. Final transmission. They played us, Sarah. 20 years of peace was just preparation for genocide. They've been testing bioweapons on our colonies. The Trade Alliance was never about cooperation. It was about studying us, learning our weaknesses, preparing for our extinction. The security drone surrounded her, but Elena continued speaking. They're calling me contaminated and paranoid. They're going to execute me to prevent the spread of human instability. Tell President Santos that the silent protocol is now authorized. Tell her that humanity tried to build bridges, but they forced us to build weapons instead. Elena's voice remained steady as the drones powered their weapons. Tell Earth that Captain Elena Vasquez died serving her species. And tell them that the galaxy is about to learn why we were kept isolated on a Deathworld for so long. Survival was never about being peaceful. It was about being too dangerous to ignore. The transmission ended as energy beams filled the council chamber. Elena Vasquez, daughter of Earth and believer in galactic peace, died in the same chamber where she had spent 5 years. Building trust between species, her death was broadcast across the galaxy as a warning to other species about the dangers of human psychological instability. The Alliance presented her execution as a necessary action to maintain galactic peace and security. They had no idea what they had just unleashed in the depths of Earth's command centers. Admiral Sarah Blake received Elena's final message. She sat in silence for a long moment, then reached for the red communication device that had remained unused for 20 years. President Santos answered immediately. Admiral Blake, what's your status? Madame President, Sarah said quietly. Captain Vasquez is dead. The Alliance executed her under false charges. The biological weapons attacks on our colonies were real. The silent protocol is now authorized. President Santos closed her eyes. The silent protocol had been developed in secret after first contact with alien species. While Earth's diplomats worked to build peaceful relationships, her military had prepared for the possibility that those relationships were lies. Admiral Blake, President Santos said, "You have my authorization. Begin Phase 1 of the Silent Protocol immediately." Madame President, the galaxy wanted to test human survival. Instincts, they're about to get their answer. Across the galaxy, beings celebrated the execution of the dangerous human representative. They believed they had eliminated a threat to galactic peace, had no idea they had just signed their own death warrant. In hidden facilities across the solar system, systems that had remained dormant for 2 decades began to wake up. The Silent Protocol was more than a military response. It was humanity's insurance policy against a galaxy that might one day decide Earth was too dangerous to exist. Elena Vasquez had died believing in galactic peace. Her death would ensure that humanity never made that mistake again. The awakening of Earth's wrath, President Maria Santos stood in the secure briefing room beneath the presidential palace, surrounded by the most powerful military minds humanity had ever produced. The room was designed to survive a direct nuclear strike. But today it served as the planning center for something far more devastating than nuclear war. General David Park stood at the holographic display, showing real-time footage from across the galaxy. Madame President, our deep cover assets confirm that the Alliance is celebrating Captain Vasquez's execution. They believe they've eliminated the human threat. President Santos studied the tactical displays with cold precision. She had spent her entire political career working for peaceful galactic integration. That dream died with Elena Vasquez. General Park, how long have we been preparing for this scenario? 23 years, Madam President, since the day we made first contact with the Saurian Empire. Admiral Blake insisted that we plan for the possibility of galactic betrayal. Dr. Lisa Kumar stepped forward from the shadows. Her presence in the room was itself classified above most government security levels. Madame President, Project Ghostwalk is fully operational. We have 47 stealth vessels positioned throughout Alliance space. They've been there for 15 years, completely undetected. Santos felt a grim satisfaction at the revelation. While Earth's diplomats had been building trust with alien species, her predecessors had been building the most advanced military force in galactic history. Dr. Kumar explained the capabilities of the Ghost Fleet. Our ships use quantum cloaking technology based on principles we discovered in deep space research. We're not just invisible to their sensors, Madame President. We exist in a slightly different dimensional phase. Their weapons literally cannot touch us, but ours can touch them. General Park activated another display. The Alliance has approximately 800 military vessels spread across their territory. Our projections show that the Ghost Fleet can eliminate their entire military capacity within 72 hours. What about civilian populations? Santos asked. That depends on your orders, Madame President. The Ghost Fleet is capable of precise strikes on military targets only, or we can implement total warfare protocols. Santos thought of Elena Vasquez dying in that council chamber while aliens watched and celebrated. She thought of 50,000 human colonists killed by biological weapons while their murderers sat in judgment of human morality. General Park, what were Elena's final words about human nature? She said that human survival was never about being peaceful. It was about being too dangerous to ignore. Santos nodded slowly. Begin Phase 1. Eliminate all Alliance military assets. Show them what Earth has really been building for the past 20 years. Commander Alex Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the stealth ship Shadow's Edge, watching the Saurian fleet patrol their home system. His crew had been stationed here for 12 years, monitoring enemy movements and waiting for orders that they hoped would never come. Commander's communications. Officer reported, "We're receiving authentication codes for silent protocol activation." Alex felt his stomach tighten. Silent protocol meant that diplomacy had failed completely. It meant that Earth was going to war with the entire galaxy. But confirm authentication and relay to the fleet. But cross Alliance space, 47 human vessels simultaneously decloaked and opened fire. The attacks were coordinated with precision that spoke to Decades of preparation and years of patient observation. The Saurian home fleet never saw what killed them. One moment they were patrolling peacefully. The next moment their ships were exploding in brilliant bursts of light. Their sensors detected nothing, their weapons found no targets, and their communications arrays were jammed by technology. They couldn't understand. Commander Rodriguez watched the destruction with professional detachment. These were the same beings who had murdered Captain Vasquez and tested biological weapons on human children. Tactical Officer, status report. All primary targets eliminated, sir. Saurian military capacity reduced by 87%. Human casualties. Excellent. Communications. Send Phase 1 completion to Earth Command. Begin Phase 2, psychological operations. The psychological warfare campaign was Dr. Kumar's masterpiece. Instead of simply destroying enemy fleets, the Ghost Fleet began demonstrating capabilities that defied everything aliens thought they knew about human technology. Human ships appeared inside. Heavily defended space stations materialized within. Planetary defense networks and struck targets that should have been impossible to reach. The aliens realized that for 20 years of supposed peaceful cooperation, humans had been studying them, mapping their defenses and positioning assets. They never detected. On the crystalline homeworld of the Eternal Collective, Millennial Deases received reports that made no sense. Human vessels were appearing and disappearing at will, striking with weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics, and demonstrating technological capabilities that surpassed even her ancient civilization. How is this possible? She asked. Her military advisors. Our sensors show no human vessels in our space, yet our outer defense platforms are being destroyed systematically. Her tactical coordinator, a younger crystal being named Radiant Korth, pulsed with confused light patterns. Millennial Deases, the humans appear to be using technology based on dimensional manipulation.
Ow.
Our understanding of their capabilities was completely wrong. Impossible. We've been monitoring human development for 2 decades. They're a primitive species with limited spaceflight capabilities. That's what they wanted us to believe, Radiant Korth replied. The evidence suggests. They've been hiding their true technological advancement since first contact. Everything we thought we knew about humanity was carefully constructed deception. Millennial Deases felt something her species rarely experienced: fear.
Oh.
The Eternal Collective had existed for millions of years, had seen the rise and fall of hundreds of civilizations, but they had never encountered a species that could deceive them so completely for so long. Surrender, Radiant Korth replied simply. We cannot fight an enemy we cannot see, cannot track, and cannot understand. Similar conversations were happening across Alliance space. The Mechanical Syndicate's advanced artificial intelligence systems were being infiltrated by human computer. Viruses that turned their own weapons against them. The Botanical Federation's living ships were being systematically destroyed by weapons that targeted their biological systems with surgical precision. General Park stood before the holographic display in Earth's command center, watching red markers disappear from the galactic map. Each marker represented an Alliance military installation or fleet that had been eliminated by the Ghost Fleet. General, his aide reported, we're receiving surrender requests from 7 Alliance species. They're asking for terms. What are our casualties? Park asked. 0, sir. The Ghost Fleet hasn't lost a single vessel. Aliens can't fight what they can't find. President Santos entered the command center, looking older than she had 3 days ago. The weight of ordering the destruction of galactic civilization was visible in her face. General Park, what's the status of Alliance military forces? 93% eliminated, Madame President. Their remaining forces are scattered and demoralized. Most are requesting immediate ceasefire and civilian casualties. Minimal, Madame President. Our forces have focused on military and government targets. The civilian populations are unharmed, but terrified. Santos nodded with grim satisfaction. Good. We're not monsters, General. We're teachers. The galaxy needs to learn that there are consequences for betraying humanity. Dr. Kumar approached with a new report. Madame President, our deep cover agents are reporting complete breakdown of Alliance government structures.
Oh.
their species are beginning to turn on each other, blaming each other for provoking humanity. Excellent. Fear is dividing them faster than our weapons. How long before complete collapse? Our projections suggest total governmental collapse within 48 hours. The Alliance will cease to exist as a political entity. Santos felt no joy in the victory. Elena Vasquez had died believing in galactic peace, and that dream was dead forever. But humanity would survive and would never again trust their safety to alien promises. General Park, prepare Phase 3. It's time to establish the new rules for galactic civilization. The new galactic order 6 months after the fall of the Galactic Trade Alliance. Ambassador Thomas Wright stood in the rebuilt council chamber of Nexus Prime. The station had been renamed Memorial Station in honor of Captain Elena Vasquez. Her image now dominated the main chamber where she had died. The beings seated before Thomas were the survivors of humanity's calculated wrath. Representatives from 38 species sat in carefully arranged seats, their postures showing the deference of those who had learned the price of underestimating Earth. Thomas was nothing like Elena Vasquez. Where she had been hopeful and diplomatic, he was cold and precise. Where she had sought cooperation, he demanded compliance. The galaxy had taught humanity that trust was a luxury they could not afford. Members of the Galactic Protection Council, Thomas began, his voice carrying the authority of a species that had proven its dominance. We gather today to establish the protocols that will govern our new relationship. Chancellor Cathara of the Unified Saurian Remnant raised her scaled hand tentatively. The Saurian Empire had been broken into 7 smaller territories after their military destruction, and Cathara now ruled barely a dozen worlds compared to the hundreds her predecessor had controlled. Ambassador Wright, she said carefully, Bays, we wish to express our continued regret for the misunderstandings that led to Captain Vasquez's death. We hope that humanity can find forgiveness in your hearts. Thomas's expression didn't change. Chancellor Cathara, there was no misunderstanding. Your species, along with 11 others, made a calculated decision to test biological weapons on human colonies while pretending to be our allies. You executed our representative to prevent the truth from spreading. These were not accidents or misunderstandings. They were acts of war. The chamber fell silent. The survivors of the Alliance had spent months trying to frame their actions as mistakes or misunderstandings. Thomas was making it clear that humanity would not accept such explanations. The Human Protection Accord, Thomas continued, establishes the new rules for galactic civilization. First, humanity will maintain military supremacy in all sectors. Our Ghost Fleet will continue to patrol Alliance space to ensure compliance with human security requirements. Millennial, Viz's pulsed with dim light as she spoke. Ambassador Wright, surely there can be room for mutual cooperation in this new arrangement. The Eternal Collective has much to offer humanity in terms of scientific knowledge. You misunderstand? The nature of this arrangement, Thomas replied. This is not a negotiation. This is a briefing on the new reality. Your species will contribute to galactic civilization under human oversight. You will share your technologies with Earth immediately and completely. You will accept human observers in your governments and human commanders in your military forces. The implications were clear. The surviving Alliance species were no longer independent civilizations. They were vassals of humanity, allowed to exist only as long as they served human interests. Dr. Marcus Chen entered the chamber. Now wearing the insignia of Earth's chief xenological advisor, he had survived the purge that followed Elena's death, and now served as humanity's expert on alien species psychology. His job was to ensure that no species would ever again successfully deceive humanity about their intentions. Dr. Chen Thomas said, Please explain the biological monitoring protocols. Marcus stepped forward, his expression professional but cold. All Alliance species will submit to genetic monitoring to prevent the development of anti-human biological weapons. Our medical teams will be stationed on every world to ensure compliance. Any attempt to develop biological weapons will result in immediate sterilization of the responsible world. The word sterilization sent a shiver through the assembled representatives. They had seen what human weapons could do to planets that resisted. 3 worlds had been rendered uninhabitable during the war, their atmospheres poisoned and their surfaces scarred by kinetic bombardment. Captain Rivera, commander of humanity's peacekeeping forces, stood to address the assembly. The protection fleet will maintain permanent stations in every former alliance system. Our ships will monitor all traffic, all communications, and all military activities. Any species that attempts to develop weapons or form alliances against human interests will be eliminated. The representatives exchanged glances of barely concealed fear. They were no longer the rulers of galactic civilization. They were subjects in a human empire, allowed to exist only as long as they remained useful and obedient. Thomas activated a holographic display showing the new galactic map. Green zones indicated areas under direct human control, while yellow zones showed territories governed by compliant alien species. There were no red zones anymore. Every system that had resisted human authority had been eliminated. The memorial to Captain Elena Vasquez serves as a reminder, Thomas said, gesturing to the massive image of the fallen diplomat. She died believing that different species could coexist as equals. Her death taught us that such beliefs are dangerous luxuries. Peace exists in the galaxy today because humanity has the power to enforce it. Chancellor Cathera spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. Ambassador Wright, what of species that were not part of the Alliance? What of civilizations that had no involvement in Captain Vasquez's death? An excellent question, Thomas replied. We have contacted 47 species that were not Alliance members. They've been given a choice: accept human protection and oversight, or be considered potential threats to galactic security. 39 have accepted our terms. The remaining 8 are no longer relevant to this discussion. The implication was clear. 8 species had refused human dominance and had been eliminated as threats. The galaxy now knew that there were only 2 choices: submit to human authority or cease to exist. Dr. Chen stepped forward again. We've established research facilities on every major world to study alien psychology and biology. Our goal is to understand each species completely, to predict their behavior, and to prevent future betrayals. The galaxy will never again successfully deceive humanity. Thomas concluded the briefing with a statement that would define the new galactic order. Captain Elena Vasquez died because she trusted in the goodness of alien species. We honor her memory by ensuring that humanity never again places its survival in the hands of others. The galaxy is now under human protection, and that protection comes with absolute human authority. The representatives filed out of the chamber in silence, returning to their ships and their diminished territories. They would carry the message. To their people, the galaxy belonged to humanity now, and resistance was not merely futile, but suicidal. In the months that followed, the new order settled into place with surprising stability. Alien species that had spent millennia governing themselves adapted to human oversight with the pragmatism of survivors. Trade resumed, scientific research continued, and exploration expanded under human direction. But the galaxy had changed forever. The diversity of independent civilizations had been replaced by a single dominant species that ruled through demonstrated superiority in warfare. The dreams of Elena Vasquez for peaceful cooperation between equals had died with her, replaced by the cold reality of survival in a universe where trust was weakness. President Santos stood in her office, looking out at the stars that now flew human flags. She had saved her species from extinction, but at the cost of everything they had hoped to become. Humanity had sought to join galactic civilization as equals and partners. Instead, they had become its conquerors and rulers. On her desk sat a final letter from Elena Vasquez, written before her departure to Nexus Prime. In it, Elena had expressed her hope that humanity would find its place among the stars as builders and explorers rather than warriors and conquerors. Santos folded the letter carefully and placed it in her personal safe. Elena's dream had died in a council chamber 6 months ago, but her sacrifice had ensured humanity's survival. The galaxy would remember Captain Elena Vasquez as the woman whose death had awakened Earth's true power. The silent protocol had succeeded beyond all projections. Humanity had not merely survived alien betrayal. They had transformed it into the foundation of a new galactic empire. The species that had once been isolated on a single world now controlled the destiny of hundreds of civilizations. Lena Vasquez had died hoping for peace between species. Her legacy was a galaxy where peace existed only because humanity had the power to destroy any species that threatened it. It was not the future she had dreamed of, but it was a future where humanity would never again trust their survival to alien promises. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson in human history. When you kill one of us, you awaken all of us. And once awakened, humanity never forgot, never forgave, and never gave second chances. The age of human dominance had begun, built on the grave of a woman who had believed in something better.